Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being the show where we talk about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Bear, Season 4, Episode 9. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, I'm going to start with the Sid and Jimmy conversation. I thought that was kind of neat, where obviously Jimmy's just kind of like, he's like, yeah, I'm waiting on a computer. He's dropping some stuff off. And then he has this point where he's like, have I let you guys down, cutting off the money? Which Sid was like, no, not at all. Like, the fact of the matter is, she's like, I feel like it's actually the other way around. I mean, that's something Jimmy's kind of struggled with, because he even brought it up before. He was like, I don't know if I did more. He had to, I think it was exactly him and Sid who had that conversation last season, where he was like, I don't, because he felt like he was failing them. He's like, the kids, that, especially with the Michael of it all, but like, Carm and Nat, and he doesn't know if he actually did enough, and she had to tell him the whole thing of like, you are here, and that's more than enough. Like, that's something, don't discount that. And so I think a lot of that's still carrying over, especially because he's like, he made the, he's the Buster Balls, like, I'll break your kneecaps type of uncle, but like, he legitimately wanted this all to work out. He's kind of sad that, like, he always talked about in season 1, season 2, I might have to take this from you, but it's like he never wanted to. He did want to work it all to work out. He wanted to believe in it. He believed it would work, and for it to be, they ain't got much time left. But Sid's like, yeah, we could turn around even if there's not much time left, but it's still a possibility. And so I thought that was so interesting. And Sid talked about her mom. She talked about like her mom being an actor. I forgot how they got on that conversation necessarily. Oh yeah, because they were talking about jobs, where it's like, your job is to basically make and like fulfill other people, like, you fun, or like make joy for other people, but the job itself will kick you in the balls. So they were talking about restaurants, movies, theaters, and it's like, yeah, her mom was like a local actress, and she remembers some of her actor friends and artists a lot when she was younger. It's like, oh, well, what does your mom do now? It's like, well, nothing. She passed away. It's like, oh, when I was 5. He's like, I'm so sorry. But Jimmy talks about the fact is that he's like proud of Sid. He's like, I'm glad I was able to kind of watch you. He's like, it must be like having to deal with my knucklehead of a nephew, but the fact is, you've done a lot, you've grown, and I've kind of loved, and I'm proud to have seen like you grow. And it's like, I know your mom would be proud of who you are. And her saying the lines, thanks, Unc, because she had just called him Mr. Kalinowski, like, because he had told her, like, yo, kind of knock that off, because like, we're supposed to be business partners, but once again, she hasn't signed the agreement yet. But it was kind of nice where she's like, thanks, Unc, because he is Unc to her too, because he's family. You're just as much of, you're one of the bears like anyone else. I just thought that was just kind of neat, because that's the first time she's ever called him Unc, because it's like, yeah, it's no different from Richie calling him Unc too. So I was like, you're just as much family, you're just as much a Berzado, just as much of a bear as everyone else here. So I thought that was just kind of a beautiful moment that these characters share. So other than that, we get into some pretty heavy stuff with Donna and Carmi, and that look on his face when she's like, can you come, do you have to hurry back? He's like, he was almost like he's looking for an excuse to kind of run away. But like, once again, him and Claire had that conversation about, no, it was him and Natalie had that conversation about not hiding anymore. And so he's kind of like, I might as well bite the bullet and see where this goes. So he sits down with his mom, and obviously staring at the house, looking at the head of the seat where his dad, he probably doesn't remember much of his dad sitting there, but definitely remembers a lot of Michael sitting there. There's like there's a lot of memories, a lot of feelings kind of culminating. And him and Donna sit down, and she's showing off the photos, like, oh, remember this uncle? Yeah, it was kind of a jack off. This uncle, kind of a jack off. This is your Aunt Carrie. I think even she said, like, she's kind of a jack off. Oh, here's a picture of young Jimmy, and then there was a picture of her and Michael, and she's like, oh, good times. And Carm's like, yeah. She's like, sarcasm, and he's like, oh, okay, phew. But for her, it was like her kissing the photo of Michael, and it made her want to be honest in this moment, because she said a lot of beautiful. That whole sequence got me choked up because of just like how, you can tell how apologetic she is, because she was like, messed up and broken, and she didn't know how to articulate everything. And I love that she had written a note. She was like, okay, I'm trying to be better. I am working on me. And I look back on my mistakes, because she's like, back then I didn't even want to even recognize that I had an issue. But she's like, I drank, and I've been sober like a year now. She's like, I know that's not a lot. It's like, because she doesn't want to like let herself off too easy. Understandable with all the guilt that she has, but it's like a year is an accomplishment. Every day is an accomplishment. That it should be seen as a success. But for her, it's like it. No amount of sobriety will ever like fully be enough. No amount of apologies and understanding of how wrong I was in the past can make up for what I did to my children, what I did to my family. She's like, I yelled, I screamed, I drank, I lied. And for her, it's like, I didn't always show you guys the love, because she talks about, I hear about all that you've accomplished, Carmen, and like hear about you and Natalie and Richie. And for her, it's like, I hear about how amazing you are and what you do is so amazing, and people say like how lovable you are, and she's like, I didn't do that. She's like, you guys kind of became all that, in fact, in spite of me. And I think that's such a hard thing. And I think a lot of her conversations, because she was already processing and working on stuff last time when we saw her last season, when it was her and Nat. And I think it's kind of nice that this season she gets to have that with Carmi, because we never got to see if she ever had those conversations with Michael or not, and probably not, because it's only recently that she's gotten better. And I think Michael's death was like a wake-up call in a lot of ways. And for her like to break down the way she did too, where she's just like, I couldn't help him. I didn't help him. She's like, in fact, I think I probably made it worse. Like the guilt of feeling like she drove her son into like the grave. Like I couldn't do enough for him. In fact, I probably made things worse. I drove him that. And it's like, because I didn't love you guys like the way you deserved. Like, I didn't treat you guys the way you deserved. And yes, I was lost. I was angry. I was sad. And I didn't know what to do with it. And it's like, I took it out on you guys, and I had no right to do that. You guys didn't deserve that. Like, I should have loved you like a mom, but I didn't. And I failed you. And you guys grew into these spectacular human beings. Like, look at you, all that you've accomplished, how much you've grown so handsome. It's like all of that you did in spite of me. And just to cut back to Carmen just like shaking a little bit and like the tears welling up in his eyes. And it's just like this beautiful thing where it's just like, Jesus Christ, when like Jamie Lee Curtis gets in her bag, she gets in her bag, dude. And it's just like, oh my God. Because obviously, like, once again, episode 6 of season 2 Fishes is just seeing like the like manicness of that performance and just like the bipolar nature of that performance. And then like to see her just so like, I talked about the wedding episode being very cathartic, that this season as a whole was very cathartic for Carmi, but this is what he needed. This was like, it plays into so much of, once again, his own guilt. Him and Natalie talked about that previously, and it's just, this was a catharsis he needed. Like, him and his mom talked a little bit, but it's like, this needed to be said. He needed to hear it. She needed to say it, and she needed it to be heard. And he's like, I'm sorry I left. She's like, no, it's okay. He's like, no. He's like, I am sorry I left, but it's okay. And he's like, I love you, And I just thought that was such a beautiful moment that they shared. And it's probably like the first honest moment they've probably shared in a very long time, especially because he's gone out of his way to avoid his mom like the plague. Understandable with the upbringing and stuff like that. But, and I think because a lot of that resonates with him, because he's like, it's interesting because obviously in the season 3 finale, he confronted one of his biggest traumas, and that was Joe McHale's character. And now he's facing another trauma. And it's like, it's also like, I forgot it might have been, was it Jimmy or was it someone else that made the parallel between him and his mom? I can't remember who it was. It might have even been Nat. Somebody made the parallel between him, like pointing out that, not unless that was Claire, and I legitimately don't remember who it was. But it was a situation of like making the parallels between him and his mom, and it's like hearing his mom. I think that's what it hit so hard, because it's like it's the history in this family repeating itself, and just that generational trauma, like trickling down and manifesting in both similar patterns and also different patterns, but mainly similar patterns. And I think when he's hearing his mom say all this stuff, and even her saying, I'm sorry, it's hitting him, because it's like he's been on his journey himself, and this is kind of like the next step, the kind of like I said, of catharsis, where it's like he's seeing so much of himself in his mom right now and realizing like, oh, am I it's just like I've inherited so much of my mom, who my mom is and who I am because of that. Like, it's like, oh, who did I become in spite of my mom, but how much of my characteristics and some of my issues stem from like because of my mom, just because they were innate to her and she kind of passed them on to me while not dealing with it. But now they're both respectively trying to deal with stuff. She's been working on herself for like over a year, and he's been working on himself. And these past couple months, he's been trying, especially because like everything he's done up until now, it's always been him hiding and just burying himself instead of like facing how he's really feeling, facing things, saying what needs to be said. And I just think this is like the first honest moment him and his mom have had in probably a very long time, if not ever. So she wants to cook him something, but he's like, no, let me cook you something. And it's kind of nice. It's like, right, nice clean kitchen, not the chaos of the Christmas episode. But he prepares a meal for her, and it's nice and it's beautiful, and it's just, especially because of how chaotic their relationship is, and then both, Carmi being talked about liking the chaos and whatnot, but the fact is that it's just this quiet moment between him and his mom, and it's kind of nice. And he goes up to what I can only assume is supposed to be Michael's room, and he's just kind of looking around, and it's just, I think it brought him a little closer to his brother, and also seeing like, oh, like here's this book about like with me, or about, I guess maybe everybody shows in it, but I think it was like Carmi on the front of it, and it just kind of like, yeah, it leads into like what Lee was saying, like, yeah, like he would talk about Carmi like all the time. So okay, so I have no idea where this is going to go in the recording. Hopefully I put it in a decent enough spot, because I'm recording this well after the fact. But going through the episode again, like, I'm getting thumbnails and pictures for the review, and I got to the scene where Carmi's in the room in his mom's house, and he's going through the closet. Did not notice the first time. He got a green sweater out of it, most likely the one Claire was talking about. She literally just mentioned it last episode, so funny enough that it survived, even though she thought it got destroyed. But I think she meant it jokingly, like, oh, bring me my green sweater, but it's like, oh, it's actually still around. And so I don't know, like I said, I think that's Mikey's room too, so it must mean like it might have been something he grabbed like before it got burned or something like that. I don't know. I'm curious. But yeah, I noticed that the second time through the episode, so I just wanted to include that and thought like, oh, that's a neat little touch that I definitely didn't notice the first time through. I just thought that was a beautiful moment. Even when he goes back to the restaurant, and Richie's like, where were you? He's like, I went to my mom's. He's like, yeah, right. It's like, it's so far-fetched that Richie didn't even believe it. He's like, no, I seriously went to mom's. I had to drop something off, and I made her lunch. He was like, oh, that was nice. Like, how was it? He was like, no, it was good, And it's just, they're still in a little bit of an awkward spot, but they're like, it's kind of like, we haven't said anything, but I think also his conversation with Jess last episode is probably ringing in his head a little bit, like probably afraid to still ask that question of, are you ashamed of me or something? Because like Carmi would tell him no. If anything, Carmi's probably ashamed of himself, and that's a lot of what he's kind of had to contend with, of like kind of letting himself off a little bit about everything. The kind of forgiving himself is something he struggles with. But those two haven't fully squared up yet. They're definitely in a much better place, but it's still like this awkward thing of like, well, we haven't really talked. It's just kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like we're around each other, but we haven't talked. And I'm curious to see if they'll end up having one or not in the next episode. Some other stuff other than that, we have Albert talking to Ted, Chris, Chucky, and Ibra about franchising out, like, open up 3 more beef spots, and it's like, oh, you told us to think small. He's like, well, this is thinking small, and it's like, you're going to have to bring on a consigliere. I'm butchering the word, I'm sure. And it's like, what's that? It's like, oh, like, a lawyer from The Godfather. It's like, oh, you? He's like, oh, well, that's such a great idea. You guys came up and invited me in. So they're like, we need to talk with each other. So it's like, yeah, they're discussing it like, no, this seems like a good idea. And so, yeah, they reach an agreement with him, but it's like, right, we got to talk to Carmen first. We got to get his blessing first. I was like, yep. And then we had Albert and the computer meet. It's like, oh, you're the computer? It's like, yeah, you're the guy I heard about. It's like, oh, you're the guy that set Ibra up with all those like charts and stuff. He's like, yeah. And it's like, oh, that's kind of a neat first name. He's like, it's a nickname. I was like, oh, do you have a nickname? He's like, yeah. What is it? It's like, I'm not going to tell you. And the computer's like, I respect that. And it's like, what is this conversation? And then they kind of get talking about like the beef, and it's not enough to uphold like the entire restaurant. I guess the beef is doing good, but a one window isn't enough, And then Albert kind of lets computer jumped to like, oh, opening one, maybe two, three. He's like, hey, don't get ahead of yourself there, which is funny. And he's trying to talk to Jimmy about it, but Jimmy's like, hurry up. He's like, no, you need to hear this. He's like, suck my balls. It's like, suck my fucking balls. And I love Albert's like, well, you heard him. He offered, suck his balls. So who knows if computer and Jimmy got to talk about things in that regard. Interestingly enough, because Carm heard from Richie like, yo, Unc wants to talk to you. And so he calls up Jimmy, and it's this really nice moment where once again, in the freezer, a lot of catharsis in the freezer for a lot of people, but especially for, catharsis, you and phone calls, how things played out in season 2. You're trying to make a phone call in the freezer to clear, but you couldn't. Now you're making one to your uncle and thanking him for everything, saying like, I know it wasn't easy. I know we haven't always made it easy, but I do appreciate the fact that you were there, with, our upbringing being what it was. Like, it meant a lot. It means a lot. And it's like, I want to let you know, I thank you. He's like, I know like it hasn't been easy, and I'm sorry. Like, I'm the one kind of basically screwing this place up. But he's like, I think I found out a way to kind of fix that, which is going to tail into the end of the episode, but I'll get to that later. And so it's just kind of thanking him for like all that he does. And and I think it's one of those things like Carmen needs to hear something, his mom needs to hear something, his mom needs to say something, he needs to say something. It's like his uncle, like Jimmy, needs to hear this too. And it's like, well, I get this feeling in the pit of myself. I'm like, please don't let it be a thing of like something happened and Jimmy didn't get to hear. It's like, please let Jimmy have heard it. Because also, this is also the episode that he found out, like, because he's like, oh yeah, like, Uncle Jimmy said you were helping him. Someone's like, oh yeah, he's moving. It's like, moving where? It's like, oh, he's downsizing. And I'm sure in Carm's head, that's also what motivated the call, along with seeing Jimmy's photo. I think the Jimmy's photo came first, and then a conversation about him downsizing. But I think that's probably what motivated Carm, because he's like, you're probably downsizing because of me in a restaurant. So that's probably why he felt even more motivated to make that phone call. We have Luca and Marcus working on stuff, and then Chester comes in because, oh yeah, there's some like stuff that still needs to be signed. And then he's looking at Luca and he's like, oh, it's you. You're the guy. And it's just, and he's acting weird. And Marcus is like, why are you acting weird, bro? He's like, oh, no problem. This and that. And then Luca's like, did I do something? Marcus is like, no. I was like, is he jealous? And he's opening up to Sid about it. He's like, he's so goddamn sexy. And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, he's so tall and he's nice. And he's like, and Sid's like, well, you're a nice person. He's like, no, I'm not. He's like, the fact is, like, she's like, well, Marcus has been through what, he's like, I know, I had a tough year. He's like, I've had a tough year too, and no one asked me about how I'm been. It's like, how are you? He's like, I don't know, because it's the thing of he feels like he's losing his best friend, and it's like, oh, like, I'm the one that, like, we're roommates, and like I always the one that can chill. I'm helping sell his mom's house. Like, I'm the one Marcus can turn to, and it's like, oh, this Luca guy here is kind of stealing the spotlight from me a little bit. It's like, no, Marcus has got enough love to kind of give to both you and Luca, and even later on, he's like, oh yeah, you guys want to celebrate? He's like, dude, we're at work. It's like, yeah, I mean, afterwards we hit the hoots. And even later on, Luca's like, wait, what's the hoots? It's like, Hooters. It's his favorite place. And then Luca's like, ugh, yikes. Like, I think it's all going to be okay, but poor Chester, just feeling like a little left out. And once again, we see in the entirety of the show just how people act when they're a little left out of stuff. So I just thought that was neat. Staying on Luca really quickly, the continuation of the Tina stuff where he's like seeing Tina and he's like, hey Jess, could you order like a pasta? And it's like, right. And Tina does one. You can see both Jess and Luca like over there by the stopwatches, and you're like, oh, they're watching the clocks, and they're like, all right. She does her thing, and without even realizing it, like when she's done, they look at the timer, and you can see Luca smile, and they put it in front of Tina later, 2:59, and it's so good, and she's smiling. And she looks at Jess and she looks at Luca, and it's like, you knew she would do it. It was just a matter of time, because she didn't have, like, she wasn't like letting it get to her, because she thought like, hey, this is just a casual thing of they need me prepared this, and not without realizing she was being timed, because she was kind of getting too much in her own head, which can be good, can be bad. But it's just in this moment she just went with the flow of things and got it 2:59. So she's gonna be ready when the time comes, when the pressure's on. She's gonna have it out less than 3 minutes. I'm curious to see if she ends up lowering it even less than 2:59. So we'll see. But I just thought that was such a neat thing. And obviously, Natalie gets a call from Food and Wine, and she gets in front of everybody. And it's like, yo, Food and Wine, they're not reviewing us, but they did want to let us know that a lot of like, they're doing like Food and Wine's like new chefs. And I was like, is it going to go to Sid? I didn't know who it was going to go to. I wasn't expecting it to go to Marcus, but I thought that was so beautiful. It's like, all right, speech. And he's like, yeah, I love this place and I love you guys. Anything else to say? You know, serving's out in like 45 minutes or something like that. So I thought that was neat. And him kind of texting that to his dad, kind of like feeling accomplished. And all the time and hard work and artistry he's put into this has like really, really paid off. I mean, we've seen the strides that he's made over the course of the show and just his growth and overcoming everything he's come, losing his mom, but like his craft of, you know, like the desserts and stuff. So that's really dope. And so obviously they're down to like the last 8 hours by the end of the episode, and then Sid gets a call from Pete, and Pete's like, you know, talking about the aggrievement, and he's like, yeah, Carm's name's not there. She's like, what? It's like, well, one side is Jimmy and the other side is the Bears, but it's only you and Nat's name. And it's like, yeah, I figured that's Carm's answer to this. He's like removing himself for it because he's like, this restaurant, he's like, once again, I paid it like, if you look back through the episodes, you'll see it where he's like taking notice of Tina, taking notice of Sid, and he's noticing like, you guys are rock stars, you don't need me here. In fact, me being here is only going to hold you back. But it's like, they would want him to stay there because it's like, no, you started all this. But he's like, no, this place will thrive so much more without me. In fact, I'm sure he wants to leave this place to Sid, you know. So that's why the irony is like, she was going to try to go to Adams to have something of her own. This place will be her own because he's like, I'm the thing that's holding this place back. I needed to do what's right by me and the restaurant and all of you. Like, this restaurant, you guys are the reason this should keep going. You're also the reason why I shouldn't, I think. So it's going to be interesting to see what Carm decides to do, like how this all plays out in the season finale, like, you know, how he goes about potentially announcing that and what that looks like for Carm. Once again, I was basing the season finale title off of what Sid's decision was going to be. It's about Carm's decision. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the season finale, how this all wraps up, and like what this means for Carmen going forward. Like, once again, kind of feels like very befitting, you know, even though he made that decision a little while ago back in episode 3, and obviously it's been some time in that time frame, but also everything he's also experienced, I think, has made him probably even more sure about that being the right decision. He thought that was the decision then, but I think even more so now post everything he's had, you know, the wedding episode, the conversations with Claire, the conversations with Nat, and the conversation with his mom this episode. I think all of it made him probably like doubly sure. Like, I'm pretty sure what I did was the right thing. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how this season ultimately wraps up and comes to an end. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.